Hi there, and welcome back to another episode of the Queer Money Follow-Up Series. We're on episode 35, and unfortunately, the husband is sick today, but the show must go on, right? Especially since we're on the last day of a four-part series talking about the 4 principles of a debt-free life. And today, our question for you is, do you have a financial plan? This is a question that everybody should ask themselves, but unfortunately, it's not something that everybody actually asks themselves or actually does, and that creates a problem. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So the fourth principle in the 4 principles of a debt-free life is to have a financial plan. And we've talked about this before, that when we realized that we have $51,000 in credit card debt, we estimated that our net worth at that particular point in time was about negative $10,000 because of, despite how much money we had in our respective retirement accounts, that $51,000 really put us in the negative. And it was only because we had a financial plan was that we were able to, at the point of this particular recording of the Queer Money Podcast, episode 35, we were able to go from a negative net worth of $10,000, pay off our $51,000 in credit card debt, and then save and invest up to $500,000 at the time of this publication. As we've talked about on this Queer Money Follow-Up series before, that net worth has now increased to over $1 million, and that was all because we had a financial plan. David kicked off this particular episode by asking me in particular how, before him, how I would prepare for a date for a hot guy that I wanted to go the extra mile with, so to speak. And I outlined, if there was a hot guy that I had my eye on and I was trying to get him to go out with me and maybe take things to the next level, there would be a series of things that I would have done back in the day when I was looking for a man. One would be, doing what I can to get myself into slightly better shape. If there was anything I could do with my dieting and working out, probably get a haircut at the time when I had hair. I would probably go to the tanning bed, maybe buy myself an outfit or two to look fresh and modern and hip. But there would be a couple of things that I would do in order to try to land that guy. Well, the same strategy applies when you have a financial plan. If you have a particular goal that you want to achieve in life, whatever that goal may be, it's much more easily achieved when you have a plan. And the same thing applies to your finances. But as we've talked about on the Queer Money Follow-Up series, and in particular with this particular 4-part series on the 4 principles of a debt-free life, that very often people get hung up or scared to actually figure out where their point A is, where they are today. And unfortunately, it takes very often a aha moment or a reaching rock bottom moment for people to finally say, all right, I got to get this shit together. I got to figure out what's going on here. And unfortunately, that's what happened for David and me. We kind of hit our rock bottom when we realized how much debt we have. And it was only then that we started to put ourselves on a financial plan. But that doesn't have to actually be what happens for everybody. This particular Queer Money Follow-Up video series, or the Queer Money Podcast episode 35, if you choose to listen to it, that could be your particular wake-up call to finally do what it is that deep down inside you probably already know you should be doing. It's just scary to get past that first point A. There was a quote that I shared in this particular episode that I loved. And I said, having a financial plan today can help you live a bigger life today, not just in the future. And we've talked about this several times on this follow-up series, is that when David and I realized how much debt we had and we put ourselves on a financial plan to pay that debt off, we were able to pay off our debt as well as reduce and finally eliminate the $10,000 in credit card interest rates that we were paying every year. Well, contrary to our thinking at the time and popular belief, we thought we needed our credit cards to live a bigger and better life, when it turned out actually the opposite was true. Our $51,000 in credit card debt and our annual $10,000 payment to subsidize or to have the privilege of having that debt was actually subtracting from our quality of life. And our quality of lives were able to grow immediately as soon as we got ourselves on that financial plan. Now, it didn't happen the next day. It took some time for us to sort of chip away at that debt and reduce that high credit card interest rate. But over time, pretty much in the near future, we were able to have a much bigger and better life. And that's what we're advocating for our entire community to take advantage of by getting yourself on that financial plan. So how exactly do you get yourself on a financial plan? That seems somewhat elusive, and it almost, if it's not too elusive, it seems a little scary, because that means might have to go talk to a financial planner. And while we certainly advocate going to speak to a financial planner as soon as you're ready, you don't necessarily have to do that right out of the gate. There are basically 3 steps that you can take to get yourself on a financial plan today with yourself or your partner before you have to engage a financial planner. And the first step is to do a financial snapshot. Now, this is something that we walk all of our clients through in the credit card payoff plan as well as the Budget Buster bundle. It's to take a financial snapshot of where you are today. This is the point A that lots of people get scared about, but it's critical in figuring out how you're going to get to where you want to go. You wouldn't say, I want to get to New York City without knowing where you are. You have to assess where you are so you can actually map map the roads that you need to take to get to New York City. Otherwise, it could be an exercise in futility. So doing a financial plan is super important. Assess how much debt you have, where all your debt is located. Assess how much your assets are, where all your assets are located. Look at your savings account, your checking accounts, the equity that you have in your mortgage, your financial or your retirement accounts. Assess both those categories, your assets and your liabilities, 100% completely, so you're crystal clear on where you are today. That might be a scary exercise, but it's super, super helpful. And it makes it it helps you create a very effective financial plan so you can execute on the next 2 steps. The second step here is to pick what your bigger goals are. Very often, and we've talked about this ad nauseum, people don't know exactly what it is they want to achieve in life. They don't know what their bigger financial goals are. They know what society wants them to want, and they know what they think they should want, but they're not exactly sure what they want. And if we take on everybody else's opinions, we're actually never going to have the best quality of life that we could have. So, for example, David and I never wanted to have a big, gigantic, fabulous house. For whatever reason, that just isn't something that fuels our soul. We wanted other things. We wanted travel. We wanted time freedom. We wanted location freedom. And so having a big, gigantic house with an expensive mortgage was really just going to weigh us down, if not make us house poor. And that wasn't important to us. So we decided at the time that we bought our first home that we would buy a place that was only 1.5 times our combined annual income at that particular time. And that's contrary to the contemporary thinking. Contemporary thinking is spending upwards of 3 to 5 times your household annual income. And that just wasn't really what we wanted. And so we chose to do something different. And that actually made all the difference in our quality of life. So pick what your bigger goals are. It could be 1, it could be 3, it could be 5. I would think it's not, if they're really your truest, biggest goals, you're probably not having more than 5 or 6. You got to kind of whittle that down and figure out what's most important, what's most effective for your happiness. And then step 3 is to map what are the small steps to take you from where you are today, your financial snapshot, to where you want to be down the road, your bigger, loftier, happier, bigger goals. Figure out what those small steps are. Very often we think about reaching financial goals as these gigantic runs up a gigantic mountain. And well, how do you get up a gigantic mountain? You take single individual steps at a time. It's not saying I'm going to get from the bottom of the mountain to the top of the mountain in one quick leap. You're going to take a series of small steps over time. You're going to have to take a break once in a while. You're going to have to drink some water, walk a little further. You're going to have to stop and eat some food, get some nourishment, and then walk a little further. So it's a series of steps. Success is rarely ever just one decision or one moment at time. It's a series of steps over time. So figure out what you're going to need to do to get to your loftier goals. What do you have to do over the next 10 years, and the next 15 years, or the next 5 years to get you to where you want to be? And those are basically the 3 steps to get you to where you want to go to create a financial plan that is going to work for you. We suggest that you listen to episode 35 of the Queer Money Podcast because We talk about how you can use your rocks, pebbles, and sand, or the rocks, pebbles, and sand analogy to fund your overall long-term goals. And it's sort of that stair-step approach. It makes achieving those bigger, loftier goals more palatable and easier. So these are our 3 steps to create a financial plan without a financial planner. Do a financial snapshot, pick your bigger, loftier, happiest goals, and then map the small steps you're going to need to take over a series of years, over a series of time to get there. Thank you for joining us for another episode of the Queer Money Follow-Up series. Here is your Queer Money Follow-Up takeaway from this particular episode. In the description below, go ahead and link to the 4 Principles of a Debt-Free Life and get that book on Amazon.com. Then let us know in the comments section whether or not you have a financial plan. We would love to know to what degree most of you have a financial plan, or if you don't have one at all. Then join us again tomorrow, similar time, same station, for Queer Money Follow-Up 36, when we talk about the 8 weapons to fight the Trump-pocalypse nonsense. I'm curious to listen to that episode and see what we think today, now that the Trump-pocalypse is hopefully over. Lastly, and not leastly, please remember to like this channel, subscribe to this channel, like this post, and set notifications on this post so you can join us for future Queer Money Follow-Up discussions. We'd love to keep this more interactive. Thank you, and we will see you tomorrow.